Number 5. Realistic holograms. In the episode Holidays of Future Past, we get another glimpse into the future timeline of the Simpsons family. Bart is living in the refurbished Springfield Elementary, which is now low-income housing, meaning Bart is still under the thumb of Principal Skinner, who's now Landlord Skinner of the lofts at Springfield Elementary. A little side prediction, I absolutely think this is going to happen. I definitely think people are going to live in decommissioned schools. You know, we're not going to need them anymore if we're all just downloading Wikipedia onto a USB into our consciousness. Okay, I'm getting sidetracked. Anyway, to pass the time, Bart is still into Itchy and Scratchy, except instead of watching it on TV, Bart watches it as a live projected hologram in front of him. Itchy and Scratchy then proceed to do exactly what they do best, which is scratch, bite, and inflict grievous bodily harm on one another, which then splatters all over the walls of Miss Krabappel's former classroom behind him. Now, hologram technology is already leaps and bounds, making incredible strides. I mean, in our lifetime, we've seen it go from science fiction to regular reality. The Tupac hologram blew our minds when we first saw it, still blows mine. We even saw Homer as a hologram actually making a surprise appearance at a Comic-Con a few years back with his father, Matt Groening. Now, the real development will be when we get holograms like shown in this episode, that you could interact with physically or could have an interaction with the environment around you, which I think is all kinds of scary. I mean, imagine if a hologram, digital light conjured, could touch you or grab you. Imagine the ramifications of that. Or don't, to be honest, because I actually don't really want to think about it. But if you do want something to think about, why not thinking about subscribing to Top 5 Scary? We got videos every single day for your viewing pleasure. Let's keep going. Number 4. Economic crash. Look, things aren't doing too great economy-wise lately. You tried to buy butter recently? A trip to the grocery store just isn't what it used to be. And maybe the Simpsons writing team knows more than they're letting on. In a recent-ish episode from the 24th season, Homer goes to prep school. Homer meets a new friend who's voiced by Tom Waits, bizarrely enough. The man overhears Homer at Moe's talking about how he doesn't think society could survive a collapse, and the man agrees with him and warns Homer that soon there'll be economic disaster, and the supermarkets will collapse, and the United States will come down with it. Homer insists that America can't fall because it's a strong empire like Rome. The man then pulls out an iPad and shows Homer an unspecified vague video with no dates that warn him of a vague impending apocalypse, which is more than enough to convince a simpleton like Homer to join their cult-like group of survivalist preppers, prepping for what they believe to be the inevitable collapse. Of course, this is a pretty real phenomenon. We all know about preppers by now. Preppers are a recognized group. There was that reality show for a while, so that's all very real. Whether or not there's an incoming collapse and the supermarkets will be empty and we'll all be raiding, who's to say? I'm not an economist, I'm a YouTube host, so all I can say is that I've noticed butter is a lot more expensive than they usually are. In the end, Homer inadvertently triggers an event that causes a collapse in Springfield, but to his and the preppers' dismay, Springfield bounces back like nothing happens. So maybe we don't need to be worried. You know, in the event of a societal shutdown, as long as we have each other and a couple people remember some good jokes from The Simpsons, I think we could survive an apocalypse together. Number 3. Cloning blues. The Simpsons heads towards the future fairly often in the modern seasons these days. I didn't know that. I guess once you've been on for 34 years, you're gonna have to start inching towards the future eventually. Now, in previous episodes set in the near future, like the classics Lisa's Wedding or Bart to the Future, they've been surprisingly bang on with their predictions. I'm sure we all know about they make a joke about President Trump in Bart to the Future, but also some pretty smaller stuff here and there, like FaceTime being the primary method of communicating in the future. Well, the 18th episode of season 25, Days of Future Future, takes us back to the future Simpsons timeline. The episode shows us a grim fate, Homer's death. The family is devastated until Homer is swiftly cloned and replaced, memories intact. Of course, Homer being Homer, this new Homer does not last very long, and his clones have to be replaced like batteries in a smoke detector, and he ends up going through Dr. Frink's entire supply of clone bodies in a matter of days. Eventually, Homer's consciousness is given over to a robotic body, kinda a la Westworld. Now, obviously this technology is pretty fantastical, and I would wager we're definitely a few years off, and at the very least before we'll see a human being stepping out of a test tube with their memories intact and ready to go face the world. But I think it's more likely coming soon than it is later. Number 2. Journey to Mars. Look, eventually we're gonna have to leave this planet behind, you know? It had a good run, can't deny that, but someday we gotta just move on, you know? It's the nature of humanity. Exploring beyond on the final frontier. In the 16th episode of season 27, we get a possible glimpse into this, with the episode featuring Marge and Lisa volunteering to be some of humanity's first pioneers into space, volunteering to go live on Mars. In the episode, a private company called Exploration Inc. is projecting to send people into space to colonize the third rock from the sun by the year 2026 and are looking for the first colonists. Marge learns during the training period that much of the skills they're looking for are similar to housework, one of Marge's favorite activities, leading her to become the perfect candidate, irritating Lisa, who wanted to be the first person on Mars. In the end, the two of them end up living there by 2050. Now, in the real world, going to Mars is a massive goal for the private company SpaceX, the other company that the CEO of Twitter runs. In the past, they've speculated that they would have people reaching Mars by now, but have pushed back a bit on that deadline. Their most recent estimations claim that by 2029, SpaceX will be sending out the first manned flights to the Red Planet to check it out. Will we get there by then? Honestly, I can see it happening. I think that's another one where we're inching closer with each passing day. The only question now is who will get there first, us or the Simpsons in 2026. That's the deadline we've got to meet or beat. And number 1, zombies. This one honestly came up a lot more than I think it would as I was looking for Simpsons predictions. Somebody in the writer's room has a very firm belief that this is how society is going to end. Now, it could just be because The Walking Dead has been really popular for the last 10 years and we as a people love zombies in our pop culture, but it shows up enough times in Simpsons future episodes that I thought it was worth noting. It's worth noting in 2 different episodes on this list even. You know, the ones that give us a look into the Simpsons canon, they both reference a zombie apocalypse. In the ending of Homer Goes to Prep School, after Homer sees that society would survive a collapse, at the end of the episode we see a shot of a meteor with zombies coming to Springfield. In fact, it's almost lightly implied that in the Simpsons universe there was kind of a low-grade zombie apocalypse. Because then, in the episode Days of Future Future, zombies seem to be just part of society, with Lisa working at a soup kitchen looking after the undead. Is this a glimpse into a dark future? I honestly think the way they treat zombies in The Simpsons is more or less how we deal with zombies. I don't think we'd have a full-blown Walking Dead thing. Maybe that would happen for a couple of weeks, but honestly I think we just work around it. I think you'd see zombies working minimum wage jobs. I think they'd be Uber Eats couriers or just like hanging out on the streets. I'm not afraid of seeing a shell of someone's former self shambling around as a corpse. I hope The Simpsons never ends, if nothing else, so they can always be around to predict the future. Number 5 on our list for scary predictions from the Princess of Prognostication for 2023 is a nuclear meltdown. Vanga predicted that soon another nuclear meltdown will occur at a currently unnamed nuclear power plant that will explode. Followers of Vanga have cited Chernobyl as proof of the oracle's soothsaying, believing that she predicted it years before it occurred. Now, if you need anyone to spell out just how bad a nuclear meltdown would be, luckily, and I use that term extremely lightly, we have Chernobyl as a harrowing monument to the dangers of untethered nuclear power. Chernobyl, if you don't know from not having seen the HBO TV show or the Call of Duty 4 level, which is where I get most of my information about world issues and politics, was a nuclear power plant outside of Pripyat that experienced a horrific meltdown. When Chernobyl's reactor burst, the blast was equivalent to the force of 500 nuclear explosions. Now, 1 is already just about the worst thing that could ever possibly happen. 2 is pretty bad. 500 is inconceivable. So I don't think anyone among us wants another one. There is obviously some worry with current conflicts over Europe that this could be what Baba Vanga is predicting. Outside forces and damage could trigger a chain reaction that leads to severe, long-lasting consequences. Chernobyl still isn't habitable by humans, and scientists estimate it won't be for the next 20,000 years. Which is a shame because honestly it does look like it could be a cool place to live. The sites are pretty cool. We can't afford another Chernobyl anywhere in the world with everything going on. In 1967 as well, Baba Vanga predicted that you would watch this video and give us a subscribe. It is just astonishing how well she was able to predict the future. Number 4, bioweaponry. I think we've all lived through enough biological disasters for one lifetime, right? I'm gonna spend the rest of my life with a bottle of hand sanitizer near me. Well, Vanga warns us that there could still be more on the horizon. One of her predictions for the near future is that she has prophesied that an unnamed big country will carry out bioweaponry research on human beings. She theorized that hundreds of thousands of people will be affected by these sinister experiments and that it could leak out into the rest of the world. Now, again, this goes without saying, but biological weaponry is banned worldwide. It's one of those things that really gets you into trouble. I mean, in 8th grade, I threw a booger at a girl and I was charged by the United Nations for biological warfare. The United Nations effectively bans any experiments or any conduct, such as stockpiling viruses and dangerous bacteria, but, you know, let's be honest, the UN says a lot of things and that doesn't stop everybody. There are some who theorize that bioweaponry is already being researched across the globe secretly. Things like weaponized viruses or chemical warfare, all very illegal, all very scary. I have played way too many of the Resident Evil games in my lifetime to not be terrified of bioweaponry. We've touched a bit on this subject on previous videos about Baba Vanga, but Baba Vanga predicted as well in 2022 that we would experience a new virus and a new pandemic. Recently, in 2021, researchers in Siberia uncovered 33 strains of novel viruses encased perfectly in ice, samples over 15,000 years old. Could this be what Vanga is referring to here? Personally, I think a secret organization making a bioweapon out of generations old viruses sounds way too much like the plot to a scary horror movie or video game than it does real life, so I'm very much hoping that Baba Vanga was wrong about this one. I mean, she's not always right, you know? You need a couple of them to be wrong to make the real ones stick out all the more. Number 3, virtual reality takeover. Hey, what's your favorite reality? Mine is occasionally this one, although I am pretty partial to some synthetic realities as well. It definitely seems like over the last few years I've spent more time inside digital worlds than I have paying attention to the world around me. I mean, can you blame me? Someone had to collect all those Korok seeds. Well, according to Baba Vanga, maybe we're all going to be spending a lot more time hooked up into our digital worlds. Vanga predicts that humanity is going to start absorbing itself into a virtual world. She said in 2022, people would spend more time online and in screens more than ever. Typical grandmother. It's hard to tell her she's wrong though. I mean, you're on a screen right now and I'm talking into a screen right now. We've seen the world become more online than ever in the past few years. Baba Vanga, you would have absolutely loved Black Mirror. They made like 5 seasons of that show. It was basically all about this. You don't really need to be a blind mystic with a gift for prophecy to predict that virtual reality is coming. I mean, Meta has made no secret about how they believe the metaverse to be the next greatest leap in human advancement. Although, if you want my advice, I think the visuals still need a little tweaking because I'm not sure that I want to leave behind all the beauty of the real human experience just to go live in a simulated reality where everything looks like I'm trapped in the loading screen for Wii Sports Bowling forever. Investors and tech startups are racing to be the one to perfect the metaverse. And I do think we'll get there eventually, 2007 graphics notwithstanding. Once we've plundered this beautiful world for all its natural resources and drained the seas and stars, I think we'll all come aboard Mark Zuckerberg's cold, desolate ark and live hooked up into the machine spirit. I'm very optimistic about the future, if you couldn't tell that. Number 2, water scarcity. What is the most important resource humanity has? Cadbury cream eggs? No. It's water, of course. As much as we think of water as an infinitely replenishing resource, we're running out of it faster than any of us would ever care to admit. Only 3% of all water on the world is fresh water, and 2/3 of that water is tucked away in frozen glaciers. The World Wildlife Foundation dictates that somewhere around 2.7 billion people find water scarce for at least 1 month of the year. Baba Vanga predicted that by 2022, the world would experience a global drought, leading to water shortages internationally. I mean, without it, we're nothing. And unless we all want to start wearing still suits like Dune, drinking our urine and sweat, we should probably try and do something about it, you know? Something on a big global scale maybe, not just paper straws. Countries across the world are already experiencing shortages. It goes hand in hand with the rising temperatures seen globally, with temperatures in Europe nearing towards 50 degrees. The UK this year experienced one of its hottest summers it had ever seen, and this year our July was the 6th hottest July on record. Like ever. Like since they started writing down information about how hot it was. This is one of those times where being really high up on a hottest list is not actually a good thing. Now, much like most people, I absolutely loved Mad Max Fury Road. But I think the parts that I thought were really cool were the cool cars and the leather jackets and punching guys in the sand, and not the part where post-apocalyptic tyrant warlords control the world by hoarding what limited water exists and oppressing the downtrodden. So I'd like to avoid that if we can. Also, I can't drive, so I don't really know how long I would last in the wasteland. Number 1, alien invasion. Our number 1 spot is also Vanga's most out there prediction. Like, out of this world out there. In 2022, Baba Vanga claims that an alien life is going to arrive on Earth traveling on an asteroid called Oumuamua to scope out the situation here. The name is Hawaiian in origin, meaning a messenger from afar arriving first. Kind of feel like if there was ever an asteroid that would very likely contain an envoy of visitors from another planet, it would have to be that one. I mean, listen to that name. Now this asteroid is real, and it is an object from another solar system altogether, passing through for an intergalactic sightseeing tour. Now, not to burst your bubble too much, but this asteroid actually has already passed through Earth's orbit back in 2017, but I guess they didn't see anything too worthwhile yet. You know what, aliens, I gotta say, this isn't really the best time for us to have company right now over. As I've listed off in this video, we're kind of dealing with some problems right now. We're still kind of cleaning up a little bit. You know, give us some notice. We just need to clean out the cupboards, fix a few of our global catastrophes, end all conflicts, get everybody to be friends, and then we can have you guys over. Recently, NASA just deflected an asteroid in a historic moment, successfully deflecting an asteroid's course. Probably a huge flex to the aliens, letting them know straight up, hey, if you guys want to swing by on an asteroid and we're not feeling it, we can just push you out of the way with an interplanetary do not disturb sign. But don't feel too threatened about that, please, aliens. We were just trying out our new asteroid deflecting software. We're not the most friendly species, but if you guys want to come check out what we're doing, we can meet in the middle somewhere, maybe on some neutral ground. Maybe the moon. We put a flag up there, but I promise that's not ours. You know, we can just share that. Number 5, World War III. In his big book of predictions known as his quatrains, Nostradamus wrote that 7 months the Great War, people dead of evil doing. Rowan Evru shall not fall to the king. Now, if you've watched any of our videos on Nostradamus, you'll know that he usually keeps his predictions pretty vague and cryptic, as a centuries-old mystic astrologer is wont to do. But here he's treating us to a prediction so easy to read, even I can follow along. Nostradamus predicts that there will be a great war, and that if the quatrain is anything to go off of, Europe will be the theater for the conflict. But in a small hope spot for the city of Rouen, France, they are not going to fall to the king. Good for them. That's the only city he specified is going to be okay. Now, who could this king be referring to? A world leader? An army, maybe? The mascot for Burger King? I know if any fast food mascot is going to start a world war, it is absolutely that guy, although Grimace has always been a wild card. Don't trust him even a little bit. Now, obviously, jokes aside, this is a tense subject. The current situation in Europe is already a cause for serious global stress, and no one wants to see it develop any further, especially into a great war. Although that's a bit of a misnomer, isn't it? I'm not sure if great is the right word to describe any wars. Maybe in size, sure, but I don't think anyone involved in an international war would describe it to you as a great time. The quatrain doesn't specify when, but with the world watching Europe now, it's definitely on the back of all of our minds that we hope this doesn't come true. Let's take a break from bumming each other out talking about global conflicts. You having fun with the channel? Toss a subscribe our way to catch it all. Number 4, Asteroids. A great fire will fall from the sky for 3 nights. The cause will appear both stupefying and marvelous. Shortly afterwards, there will be an earthquake. Ever since a big rock wiped out the dinosaurs, I think it's been a little bit on the back of our minds worrying that maybe something like that might happen to us someday. If something is going to stop a T-Rex, I don't even feel a little bit confident about my odds. This quatrain here makes it seem like we've got to be watching the skies. And while I certainly hope this is just Nostradamus referring to the world's best 4th of July celebration and a whole long weekend fireworks session, people who spend a whole lot more time than me reading about Nostradamus theorize that this could be referring to an asteroid strike on our sweet blue planet, which is going to be both stupefying and marvelous, which honestly sounds very, very nice were it not for the earthquake. Lucky for us, and terrible for extinction event enthusiasts, our good friends at NASA have recently demonstrated their DART technology, short for Double Asteroid Redirection Test. And I gotta wonder how many acronyms they tried before landing on that one, because DART sounds so clean. It's a system in place to change the trajectory of asteroids. Successfully, no less. Just a few weeks ago, for the first time in humanity's history, we changed the path of a celestial object. So take that, Nostradamus. Bet you didn't predict we were gonna go to space to push something out of the way. And hey, asteroids, you think you're so tough? Well, take that, never-ending cosmos and unending might of the eternal stars. We're just gonna push you right out of the way. We don't care. Number 3, Celestial Fire. And before we move forward, we really gotta think of a nickname for this guy. Nostradamus is just a mouthful and a half. Mussy? No, that's way worse. Okay, never mind. We're just gonna keep calling him Nostradamus for now. You know what? If you ghouls and goblins can think of a good Nostradamus nickname, throw that down in the comments because I am spending so much time saying this guy's name. Our favorite Farsi and Frenchman with no good nicknames wrote in his big book of predictions that there will be a celestial fire on the royal edifice. So what does that mean for us? What is a celestial fire if not a Destiny 2 melee ability? Warlocks are going to dominate a new Crucible map? It's unlikely, as Nostradamus' predictions on Destiny's meta have frequently been inaccurate, and most historians believe he actually would have played a Voidwalker instead of a Dawnblade. Experts in transcribing Nostradamus' work believe that this excerpt from his poetry could be referring to the destruction of the royal palace, with many believing it to refer to the royal family in the UK. So should King Charles put a big fireproof umbrella over Buckingham Palace? Some have suggested that this could be far more dramatic, referring to Buckingham Palace being completely destroyed and from its ashes a new power rising. The prophet continues to say that an unlikely alliance will occur of two great powers that will come together. Now, who would this new world order be? Benevolent, to lead us to a new golden age, or dark new overlords to oppress us all? It's always a possibility that it could be reptile people. Number 2, man-eating? No abbots, monks, no novices to learn. Honey shall cost far more than candle wax. So high the price of wheat, that man is stirred his fellow man to eat in his despair. Now, at first, this seems like the ramblings of an old man who just came back from Walmart and saw the price of honey and is going off on a tirade. But that little snippet about man eating his fellow man sticks out just a little bit, doesn't it? This prediction is pretty directly doomsaying, with our good friend and master of mysticism, Nostradamus, suggesting that in the future, things are going to get so bad that food is going to become so expensive that the common fella won't be able to afford any honey, wheat, or Honey Nut Cheerios, and will be pushed in desperation to start eating his fellow man. Hey, there really was not a lot going on back then if the scariest thing he could think of was honey getting so expensive that it would cause a full-on societal breakdown and cause us all to start eating man. You think they're gonna sell that in grocery stores? Obviously this one is a bit drastic as far as his predictions go, and definitely a bit scary unless you're the kind of person that watches The Walking Dead and wishes, gosh, I wish that was me. And if you are, you should probably talk to someone, they just want to help. But there is some truth to this. Prices of basic groceries are going up and up every year. I mean, you can walk into the Walmart and see the price of honey yourself, with inflation creeping its ugly little head a little more each year. It's been a consistent concern as well that bees are going to go extinct in our lifetime, with the population of honeybees declining rapidly yearly. For our sake, and the bees, we need to do something to save the planet, if not just for the ecosystem and the planet as a whole, but also because apparently if we run out of honey, that's the first thing that causes us to all start going Texas Chainsaw Massacre on each other. Number 1, Great Discord. The trumpet shakes with great discord, an agreement broken, lifting the face to heaven. The bloody mouth will swim with blood. The face anointed with milk and honey lies on the ground. Like most of Nostradamus' writings, this one sounds a bit like the opening monologue to one of the Lord of the Rings movies. And wow, hey, honey again. Honey was a really serious cause of concern for this guy. I think if nothing else, Nostradamus took his morning tea incredibly seriously. So besides crying over spilled milk and honey, what do the experts have to say about this one? Was Nostradamus banned from his Discord server and writing out against the tyrannical mods? Well, like most of the predictions on this list, this unnerving quatrain seems to suggest that dire violence will plague us, with unrest between the classes leading to full-scale rebellion and riots. This little ditty seems to support that, with Nostradamus writing that sooner and later you will see great changes made, dreadful horrors and vengeances. Well, I don't know about you, but I support great changes definitely, though I'm a little less sure about dreadful horrors and vengeances. The last few years have seen more civil unrest than ever, with it seeming like there's a mass-scale protest or riot every couple of weeks somewhere in the world. It's easy to flick on the news and see that and wonder if it's eventually going to hit a boiling point, and when it does, if we'll see some serious changes, or at the very least, some positive progress towards the price of honey. Because I'm really not looking to get eaten by anyone anytime soon. I'm just, look at me, I'm so twiggy, I will barely even make a good snack. Just pass me over, okay?
Number 5 on this list is the continued damaging effects of climate change. That's right guys, we're going there. In 2021, temperatures in North America had some record-setting numbers. Over the last few years, temperatures have been rising significantly, and 2021 was no different. The west coast of Canada and the United States were the hottest that they've ever been this past year in 2021, and we saw what rising temperatures can cause. Forest fires raged in British Columbia and in California, and with the temperatures continuing to rise, this will only get worse and worse. Something concerning as well is that the nighttime temperature was hotter than it's ever been. Typically, it's very hot in the day and then gets pretty cool in the nighttime. This allows our bodies to cool off when we sleep. However, in 2021, the temperature during the night didn't drop nearly as drastically as it usually does, and this is because the Earth is holding on to that heat in the atmosphere and it's having a hard time escaping. With all of this being said, and the fact that no real dramatic change has been made to our greenhouse gas emissions, scientists predict that this trend will continue in 2022. They've come out and said that between 2021 and 2025, there is a 90% chance that we will have the warmest global year ever. They also predict that there is a 40% chance that in that same time frame, we will reach 1.5 degrees Celsius higher than what our global temperature was at pre-industrial days. All of this heat also means that they're predicting a lot more tropical storms as well. The frequency of cyclones in the Atlantic area is supposed to rise. Forest fires, as I mentioned earlier, will continue to rage and be harder to suppress. And southwestern North America is likely to be a lot drier than it's ever been. Basically, scientists believe that 2022 will continue to break climate change records and be pretty detrimental to the Earth. Number 4 on this list is a prediction from Baba Vanga. This one is pretty bloody triggering, and I can only hope that she's wrong about it. Baba Vanga thinks that in 2022 there will be a deadly virus that is released from a glacier and that will ravage the world. Now, if you don't know who Baba Vanga is, then she was a woman who lost her eyes at a very young age, but then developed the ability to have visions. She's also made a lot of correct predictions over the years, with people saying that she has an 85% success rate. Brexit, the Syrian gas attacks, the first United States black president, all of this stuff was predicted by Baba Vanga. In 2022, she is saying that a glacier will melt due to global warming, and that in that ice will be a virus that will get released into the world and our human immune systems won't be ready for it. After COVID, I cannot handle any more viruses or diseases or anything like that at all. The sad thing is though, that this could very well actually happen. We already spoke about global warming and how it is continuing to rise, with 2022 having the potential to be the hottest year ever. This is obviously causing the glaciers on the poles to melt. Now, the whole aspect of having a virus released because of this kind of sounds like it was taken straight out of a sci-fi movie, but it's actually accurate. Scientists have found viruses in the ice before, and after testing them, have realized that they are nothing like what we've ever seen. Therefore, our bodies would not be capable of fending off these viruses because they have never encountered anything that's similar to them. Some of these viruses may not even affect humans either, but they could affect animals or plants. This could be just as detrimental though, as it has the potential to absolutely annihilate the ecosystem. Either way guys, we just have to cross our fingers and hope that any viruses found in the ice aren't too dangerous, and we just dodge this bullet altogether. Number 3 on this list is another catastrophic economic recession. Yep guys, it's time to talk money, or well, I guess in this instance it would be the lack of money. After the massive economic recession that took place a little over a decade ago, everyone is still on high alert, doing their best to make certain that we don't fall into that trap ever again. This is easier said than done though, because there are often extenuating circumstances that are out of our control. For instance, COVID, that really hurt the economy and nobody saw that coming. Stuff like that is kind of impossible to predict. However, that doesn't stop people from trying to look ahead and see what the next economic year will hold for us. Right now, a positive economic recovery is seen as very likely due to many people believing that 2022 is supposed to be the first normal year back after the pandemic. People will have savings that they want to spend, they go out, they spend them, bang, the economy loves it. But experts believe that this level of economic optimism has reached an unstable place. The stock market is predicting such a big boom, and the experts don't think that the money will actually hold up to what they're predicting. It should also be noted that the percentage chance of an economic recession has been slowly rising over the last few months. Right now, it's believed that in July of next year, there will be just under a 10% chance that the entire United States economy goes into a major recession. A 1 in 10 chance, it's not horrible, But when you're playing with people's life savings and their jobs, that gets a lot scarier very quickly. Economic optimism can be a good thing, but overconfidence can bring us to a very scary place, as seen by the housing market collapse of 2007. Number 2 on this list is a prediction by Nostradamus. Now, would this really be a 2022 predictions list video if we didn't have Nostradamus in it? He's basically a staple whenever it comes to scary predictions. This time, he believes that a major climate war will start in 2022. For those of you who aren't familiar with Nostradamus, he was a French astrologer and seer in the 1500s. Now, we still talk about him today though, due to his major work called the Prophecies. The Prophecies is a collection of poetic quatrains that predict things to come in the world. Nostradamus has been proved correct with some of his prophecies, such as the death of Henry II, the Great Fire of London, and the French Revolution. We actually talked a little bit about Nostradamus in a previous video looking at the top 5 mysterious people who tried to warn us about the apocalypse. In 2021, Nostradamus believed that zombies would take over the world. Pretty outlandish if you ask me, but the one that we're talking about today is a little bit more reasonable in my opinion. Nostradamus says, under the opposite Babylonian climate, great will be without the outpouring. As we've already spoken about, climate change will be greatly affecting our world. Could it be possible that a country has a shortage of resources due to this climate change and has to go to war? Potentially a lack of clean drinking water could cause some type of chaos between 2 nations? Maybe the world enacts new climate change laws that one country refuses to follow and therefore goes to war with some other nations. I'm not sure what it's gonna be, but all of these things, they could have potential. The one thing about Nostradamus is that he was never very specific with his predictions and often left it up for interpretation. But I do think that a war involving something climate based is certainly a possibility and would be particularly horrible because war could only ever hurt the climate even more. Number 1 on this list is another prediction from Baba Vanga about a dragon taking over the world. That's right folks, clearly Baba Vanga was a very busy lady while she was alive and had multiple predictions for the year 2022. In this one, she believes that a dragon will take over the entire planet. In fact, she is quoted as saying, "A strong dragon will seize humanity. The 3 giants will unite. Some people will have red money. I see numbers 100, 5, and many zeros." So we have a lot going on here. We have dragons, giants, money that is red, and some strange numbers that kinda came out of nowhere. If we take what Baba Vanga said literally, then I can almost guarantee you that it won't come true. In my entire living life, I have never seen a dragon before, and as much as I would love to believe that they're real, I think it's safe to say that one is not going to appear next year and ravage the planet. That being said though, if we break down what she said a little bit more, then there could be some serious truth in what she's saying. Specialists of Baba Vanga believe that when she is referring to a dragon, she's actually talking about China. The giants that she's referring to, interpreters believe are the 3 biggest countries in Asia: China, Russia, and India. Therefore, they will unite as a force, and the dragon, China, will take over the world. The money being read could be in reference to yuan, and the denominations of 100 or 5 could be referring to some important monetary number of those yuan that hasn't been made clear to us at this point. Now, if we take her meaning as I just described it, it actually doesn't sound nearly as outlandish as it did when we were talking about dragons. However, this would be pretty freaking bad because I can only imagine that the giants uniting and the dragon taking over the world would mean a massive all-out war. If China, India, and Russia are involved, that also means that the use of nuclear weapons would probably take place, in which case 2022, it's really going to be a lousy year, guys.